Shalom and welcome to this week's Living Torah. And it's another week that we're not at war yet. Of course, we're recording this on Tuesday, and we could be there by then. Every day that I wake up and I look at the news, I wonder, is this the day that it all begins? I have said for, 3 or 4 years now that we're already in World War III, and it just hasn't really been declared. If you look at what's happening around the world right now, you look at Russia and China and Iran, all the military buildup that we have, where is it going to go? As I'm recording, this is actually started last night, or ended last night, the Chinese New Year. And something I brought out and we talked about a little bit on Shabbat with Life Assembly is the concept, with China, and I don't know how they get this except for this is pretty much a nation that worships the creation instead of the creator. But for every year they have, the year of the monkey or the year of the bear or dog or something like that. Well, this year is the year of the fire horse or the red horse. Okay. Now just consider that if you were to see a red fire horse and some kind of a parade in China about this, and they really like the fireworks over there, and there's all kinds of fireworks going off, well, what would you think about? You might think about a dragon, a red dragon. So where would we see a dragon in Scripture? We discussed this of Revelation chapter 12 verse 17, and it talks about the dragon went forth to make war with the woman and her children, and it defines the children pretty well. Those who hold fast to their faith in Yeshua and are zealous for or obeying the Torah. I'm kind of mixing the verses of the book of Acts there together with those, but it's the same message. So in the end, people are looking at this war, this whatever may be approaching as war, but what does it really come down to? It comes down to a people who are walking in covenant that probably for the most part don't even realize that the war is actually about them. So keep watch. I'm going to be, Bezrat Hashem, God willing, I will be with Barry and Laura Phillips up in Gloucester, Virginia, House of David, on March 14th. So if you're in the area, love to see you. When Barry called me about this, I started thinking about it, considering it, praying about it, and I'm like, I don't have a single message for them that I haven't already spoke. I had nothing really and it was, the days are ticking off, and I know what the word says, take no thought, but, I like to be prepared when I go somewhere, at least as much as I'm allowed to be prepared. Well, I called Barry the other day and said, thank you very much. I woke up at 4 a.m. with a message that I have never done this, and it actually goes back to message that's recorded this month on Mashiach ben Yosef, a message that will be released here in just a few days for the month of March on Mashiach ben David, and a new thought on that, well, let's just say brings the two together. So if you're anywhere in that area, I'd love to see you. All right, let's go into this Torah portion of Tetzaveh, which begins in Exodus chapter 27. And it says, you are to order the people of Israel to bring you pure oil of pounded olives for the light. All right, you're to order. Now, last week's Torah portion is teruma, contribution, and it says, tell the people, or devar, bring forth the word to the people to take up a collection for me, accept a contribution from anyone who wholeheartedly wants to give. All right, so last week we have kind of a bit of a volunteer thing, but in this week's Torah portion it says you are to order. And the first time that word is used in Scripture is in Genesis chapter 2, and verse 16 says, Adonai Elohim gave the person this order. You may freely eat from every tree of the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You are not to eat from it, because on that day that you eat it, it will become certain that you will die. All right, so what's the difference? What's the difference between these two Torah portions? Well, it actually ties to a Torah portion from a few weeks ago. Let me see where this, Exodus chapter 24, verse 7. I'll get there in just a moment. And it says, everything that Adonai has spoken, we will do and obey. Now, aseh vanishma. We will do and we will obey. So let me kind of break this down just a little bit. That the word that was used last week in contribution is kind of like a volunteer. Okay, but now for those who have volunteered to be a part of it, you have now set yourself up for the orders. This goes back a few Torah portions to the bondservant that is voluntarily chosen to be part of the household. He can now, he volunteers, he's working the same orders, but now they're more a part of him because he volunteered for it. This year, November 15th, will be, amazing as it is, the 50th anniversary of me volunteering for the United States Army. Now, I did not come in during the time of the draft. The draft was 2 or 3 years out by that time. So, to my mother's total disagreement, she thought, he's either going to be in the Army or in jail probably sometime, so maybe the Army will do him some good. So I volunteered for the United States Army. And up until the time that I signed the papers, raised my right hand, and repeated swore to an oath of that day, until that moment in time, everything that I had done was voluntary. Well, then, kind of late afternoon on November 16th of 1976, I showed up at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It kind of dawned on me right after, that bus pulled up and the drill sergeant, drill sergeants got on the bus and began yelling at us and calling us names and telling us to get off the bus in an orderly manner. I had volunteered for this, and he really didn't think about that, because my volunteer status had gone away, and now I was in a place of taking orders. Okay, is there really any difference in what we're doing that we voluntarily? No one receives Messiah by force. Now, the Inquisition, the Crusaders, various ones, they tried, but did they really succeed? No. You can force someone to say words, but it is a voluntary status to receive those words. And so we all come into this family called Israel, grafted in, adopted into this family in a volunteer status. But when we volunteer, I guess what's not told to us up front sometimes is now it's no longer an option. We don't come in and go, well, I can take this commandment and not that one, and I can do this and not that. That's not redemption, okay? That is not biblical redemption. That is maybe prosperity gospel or something like that, or liberal whatever, but that does not line up with what the scripture is. And the scripture is that we do and we obey, and that our doing and our hearing, our doing, our trust and obey, they become echad. They become one. The same as Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, that he is one, then our actions toward him become one. And by the way, this is the message of the book of Yaakov or James, where if we go back to the way the renewed covenant, the Brit Hadashah, was originally put together, it would have been Matthew, Mark, Luke, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I don't know why I'm thinking about something else at the same time. I'm ahead of myself in my brain. That's not working real good for my mouth. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the book of Acts, and then the book of Yaakov or James. And if we were to read that, and Yaakov would talk about, you say you have faith, but show me your faith, I'll show you my works. Because my works are going to prove out that I have faith. So it is the same concept of the message that the book of Yaakov, before we got into the books written by Shaul, we had gone into those books with a different approach to them. Now, all that being said, let's get to the scripture of you're to bring your pure oil of pounded olives for the light to keep a lamp burning continually. Why the olive oil? Why is it that he brings out here that you are to bring olive oil? Why not everyone bringing bread for the table of showbread? Well, if we were to look at this concept in modern day Israel, olive oil is probably one of the most community-based efforts that there is in all of Israel. Pretty much anyone that has a house and a plot of ground has an olive tree. I mean, they're everywhere. Now, I know vineyards that I work with that actually have the olive groves, the business there, but anyone can be part of the process of olive oil. When I was up at Itamar this past year with our group, we were driving up past the olive press, and it was a time this year that the olive press was the olive season. So my friends Moshe and Leah, they said, hey, why don't we stop here and go in and take a look? So we did. And I had never been in this press. I've been in other olive presses. I've been part of the olive harvest in Israel. So I have some concepts of that. But this year was interesting in that in Itamar, this is not really a large vineyards that also own olive groves, kind of like Torah and various ones. But this is a community effort. So this olive oil press, we were able to go into the warehouse. It was explained to us all of the different mechanisms, all the different machinery that's there. But what was intriguing to me was not watching the machinery, but watching cars pull up in the parking lot. And here's a family with a couple of kids, a little four-door sedan, and they pop the trunk. They've got buckets of olives that they have picked from their trees in their yard or somewhere in the area, and they're bringing those, and they give that unto the community, and they share in the end in the profits. Well, in that day, there would have been a certain part of that went to the temple, to the tabernacle, and to the menorah. So the order to bring forth the olive oil, the olives for the oil, was to, in a way, tell you You have volunteered to be part of a family. Now act like it. Bring something here. Be a part of it. This is not about you making up your own olive press in your garage, but everybody coming together in unity as a family. Now, Judaism has this down a whole lot better than Christianity has in the past. That may change somewhere along the way. So it was about a community process, but that community process had an amazing message to it. And as I was there in Israel, this would have been 2012-13, and part of the olive harvest, I learned some very important things about it. Is that, first of all, an olive tree does not lose its leaves. It has leaves year-round. No matter what season it is, whether it be summer or winter, whether it be blistering heat or snow, and I've been in both in Israel, no matter what it is, the olive tree still has its leaves, which tells us this, that there is, no matter where we are in our lives, and as Solomon would tell us in Ecclesiastes, that our lives have seasons. Okay, there's seasons of fruitfulness, there's seasons of barrenness, there's seasons that are warm, seasons that are cold, seasons that you're trying to, repair everything, whatever it is. There are seasons. But the olive tree is teaching us that no matter what the season that we're living through, the Father's covering is always there with us. As Yeshua would say, I never leave you nor forsake you. I am always here as a covering for you. The second thing about an olive tree is the way that the fruit comes to you. You don't just you can go up and pick an olive, but let me tell you, you're going to be there for a long time. You're going to have to get a ladder. Some of these olive trees, I've actually gotten up in them and had to hand pick some. But an olive tree, the fruit doesn't just fall to the ground. In fact, if you wait till that time, the fruit is shriveled up and really is no good for anything except to stain the sidewalk when you walk on top of it. So it's a mess. So in order to get the fruit from the tree is beaten. The first time I was told this, I'm like, wait a minute, you've got to be kidding me. No, we're going to go with a stick, multiple sticks, and we're going to beat the tree. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So we put this huge net down underneath it, and a bunch of us got in there with sticks and start beating the branches on the tree. Those that are up top, I have pictures of me doing this, kind of a fun day. I actually climbed up in the tree, and you got your stick, and you're reaching out there onto these top branches, and you're beating on them, and these olives are falling down, and then they are crushed. So in order for us to become the olive oil in this world, in order for our fruit to produce something of usefulness, you're going to have to endure life. You got to endure life. And what happens? You go through, your life you're beaten, you're crushed. We had our children here with us, and I think Kathy was talking about somewhere along the way about my grandmother. And Granny over this shoulder here, I've told this story, but Granny had 6 children. And her husband left her as a young mom. She was a young mom at the time, and actually committed suicide. Granny would outlive five, yeah, all but one of her children. All five would die in horrific ways of suicide, a car accident, of a fire, a death as a baby. And it was only my mother that would outlive my grandmother. But her testimony in Wakulla County in the Panhandle of Florida allowed me in 1993, in October of 1993, to walk into that county as Aunt Loney's grandson and have just an open door, a key to the county, if you would, to be able to do a work in that county for about 6 years. And so it is not what life brings upon you. It is what you do with life. And the concept of olive oil. I mean, you go to a store and you look at if you go to Walmart or wherever, okay, Trader Joe's, something, you've got this section of the shelf that's olive oil. And there are different levels. You have, the one that's I guess just pressed with the machine, that's down there on the bottom shelf that you buy by the gallon. And then there's the virgin olive oil, and then there's the extra virgin olive oil. And what are those levels about? The levels are about man's being a part of the process. So the more that man becomes a part of it, the less the quality. The olive oil, literally, when I was there and we were picking the olives, we were putting them in what is called a dolev. A dolev is it looks like a milk crate, kind of like an oversized, gorilla-sized milk crate. And this thing will hold somewhere around, I'm kind of going from memory here, about 900 to 1,000 pounds or so of olive oil, of olives. So what happens when you start piling those olives on top of each other, that eventually the weight of the other olives on top causes some of those on the bottom to split open, and the natural process, you would look at that dolev, and that's the extra virgin olive oil that is being brought forth. Those olives, some of those were picked up with the net, never even had the hands of mankind upon it. And that produces the best. So I guess the moral of all this is, when we find that life is pressing us, life is crushing us, when we've gone through the beatings that life is, are we willing to allow our oil to come forth and be of the highest quality unto the work of Yah, or kind of holding back? I'll just leave that with you to consider more in your own personal life. Number 3 is that olive oil does not mix with water. It doesn't mix with anything. It stays separate. In fact, if you were to, you know this if you've ever made vinegar and oil salad dressing, hey, you can pour the olive oil in first, then you pour in the salad, the vinegar, put your whatever seasonings you want to put in there, and you can shake it as long as you want. The moment that you set that thing down, it begins to separate. The oil, though it may look like in the bottle that the oil has joined with the vinegar, that it has become one, it hasn't. And the moment you set that bottle down, that olive oil is going to come to the top. So what do we do in our lives with the beating, the crushing, the things that life shows with us? Do we rise to the top, or try to mingle with the other elements that are there? Well, in order for this olive oil to be used, it had to come to the top. It had to rise to the occasion, if you would. Now, the Hebrews were to have then, because of this process, the connection they had with the tabernacle when they brought their offering, maybe a piece of leather, a few gold coins or silver coins or whatever it was, they would have a connection with the tabernacle that would be there. And they could maybe come, as I've taught in my tabernacle teaching, about maybe a couple that had given a piece of leather, maybe porpoise skin, that had been used for shoes, and they had put it, and they could bring their children and say, look at that little piece right there. Oh, your mom and dad, we gave that unto Moshe to build the tabernacle. But it was about something that happened in history. The bringing of the olive oil for the continual burning of it from evening until morning. What is this about? That they had a continuing connection with the tabernacle. The tabernacle was, let me put it like this. I talked to a friend of mine a couple of days ago. Their congregation is trying to get their own building. Okay, so they were having a bake sale, flea market, auction, whatever they're doing. Just get together and raise some money for this building project. Anybody that's ever been in a church, congregation, whatever, you go through times that hopefully you're kind of busting out the seams of the building. It's time for us to have a building project. Okay, there's nothing wrong with the building project. It's are you trying to build your kingdom or his? It should be the question that's asked. But I know from experience through the years and talking with others, there are people that will commit to giving to a building, but they will not commit to being a part of the continuing process afterwards. Yeah, I'll throw $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is. I'll toss that toward the building, but they're not willing to give of their lives in the continual operation from that point on. We should not be have to be reminded, and I'm so thankful to many of the people that you're looking at me right now. You understand the concept of continual faithful giving unto. I mean, God willing, I've hopefully never made the building of Join to Hashem about me. If that has happened, it was not on purpose, and I have desired since the inception of this ministry in 2003 to always have it being a part of the kingdom, our giving unto Israel, the work that is done by this ministry. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about his kingdom. And myself and Kathy are so appreciative on a daily, monthly basis to those who continue to be a part of. This is the message of the tabernacle. It's not just that we come and we give to the building of it, but we continue in the process of being a part of his kingdom coming. Now, to finally get to chapter 28, the Levitical priesthood is something that is, this whole thing of the Levitical and the Melchizedek priesthood, I'm not going to take the time to go into that right now, except to say this, that the Levitical priesthood was to be an earthly image of a heavenly realm reality. Kind of like the menorah. Okay, I tried to get away from that. I'm going back to it. The message of the menorah just intrigues me in so many things, because it goes all the way from Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 all the way through Revelation. We see the concept of the menorah, Isaiah chapter 11. And so the menorah with the oil that is burnt, the flame is burning because of the oil, which was the community effort, is a natural realm light that is in a way providing light to get to a spiritual realm reality, a spiritual realm light, which is the Ark of the Covenant. So the menorah is a natural realm light to direct people to the spiritual realm light, which is why you and I should be like that menorah, that we upon this earth are filled with the oil of His Spirit and providing and shining forth a light in this world that would then direct people to the spiritual realm light, which is the Ark of the Covenant and His presence. Yeah. Okay. So in Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, this is, when I think of verses that just overwhelm me with intrigue, this is one of them. And I'm going to start at verse 1, going all the way down, going down to probably at the end of verse 5. Here's the whole point of what we have been saying. We do not have just such a Kohen Hagadol, a high priest, as has been described, and he does sit at the right, or we do have such a high priest as has been described, and he does sit at the right hand of Ha-Gadol in heaven, where he serves in the holy place. That's where the menorah was, in the holy place. About it, and that he's there. You don't know the amount of stuff in my mind when I start reading this. Let me just try it once again to read it. There he serves in the holy place, that is, in the true tent of meeting, the one erected not by human beings, but by Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Mind explode. For every Kohen Gadol is appointed to offer both gifts and sacrifices, so this Kohen Gadol too has to have something he can offer. Now, if he were on earth, he wouldn't be a Kohen at all, since there already are Kohanim offering the gifts required by the Torah. But what they are serving is only a copy and shadow of the heavenly original. For when Moshe was about to erect the tent, Elohim warned him, "See to it that you make everything according to the pattern you were shown on the mountain." There is in the heavens a tabernacle. Now let's not make the mistake of trying to imagine that heavenly tabernacle based upon an earthly realm. This is what the commandment in one of the 10 words was saying, of making an image of something. Okay, now they were commanded to make an image of something in the heavens. But with that, as we will see with the golden calf, they were perverting an image. Okay? What we do upon this earth needs to be after the pattern of the heavens. And for us to I'm trying to figure out how to say this, for us to try to look at the earthly realm tabernacle and then portray that as what is actually there is doing disservice. The heavenly realm Mishkan tabernacle is beyond our comprehension. And we've been given a mirror image of that tabernacle in order for us to to attempt to comprehend the message and what is going on there. It says that Yeshua, if he was upon this earth, would not be a Kohen Gadol after the order of Levitical. Why? Because he is of the order of Melchizedek, which is what the book of Hebrews, much of what the book of Hebrews is all about. All right. I hope I've kind of muddied that one up a little bit for you. Just when you start to consider those things of Moshe, of the Levites, of the people that are coming and they're bringing their olive oil, they're bringing their sacrifice, that is an earthly representation of what is happening in a spiritual realm around us. Not a place. Not a place, but a realm. Don't try to, if we try to put it into a place, heaven is not a place, it is a reality. Heaven is a realm. Earth, that according to Psalm 115, he made the heavens, the heavenly realm, which is his realm, and then he made the earthly realm so that we would have a place to not only would we have a place that we could involve ourselves in, influence this realm, but it would become this image of the heavenly realm upon this earth, which is the prayer of Yeshua, your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens. This is about when they brought their olive oil for the menorah, they were involved in the concept of the prayer of Yeshua. Oh. Now, how do you get all the Hebrews in the presence of the Almighty? Okay, there's all these thousands of people around. You have this tabernacle, which the outer court is about 75 feet by 150 feet. How do you fit all of them in there to worship? Well, you can't. And that is the job of the Levites, the priests, and the high priest. And that brings in the garments that they would be wearing. The key part of the garment of the high priest of Aaron is this, that the stones for the ephod would be upon his breast next to his heart. Those stones would be for each one of the tribes. And there would be 2 stones that would be, in a way, holding the vest, the ritual breastplate together, the vest together, and on those stones were written the names of the tribes. So when the priest came into the outer court, what were they doing? They were bringing Israel, all of Israel, with them. When they brought the oil, which was given to them by Israel, when they brought the bread for the table of showbread, when they brought the incense, all of these things were brought forth because of the community of Israel. They were bringing the community with them. And when Aaron came into the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, into the very presence of the kavod, the glory of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, and he had on dressed, he had the breastplate with the 12 tribes. He had the stones in which the tribes' names were engraved on. He was bringing all of Israel into the presence of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Now, in the book of Acts, it talks about that, and this is actually quoted from one of the prophets, I will restore the fallen tabernacle of David. Why does it not say, I will restore Solomon's temple. I will restore, the Herod's temple, the second temple. Why does it say the fallen tabernacle of David? Because the tabernacle is what David was acquainted with. He would, yes, provide for the building of the temple, which was the time of Solomon. But here's the difference. In the tabernacle, in the wilderness, all the people came together as one, as echad. They came together as one. All the tribes would come together with the foreigners, the Egyptians, and possibly others from the nations that joined in along the way of that 40-year journey. They would all come together as one. There was no walls of separation in the tabernacle. You didn't have the court of the women. You didn't have the court of the Gentiles. You didn't have all of these separations. He says, I will rebuild the fallen tabernacle of David, which means that there's coming a time that we will worship before him in the manner that David was accustomed to, and that is all people becoming one. All Israel would have entered, and they would have done so with as if the priests were bringing them there. But they had to do so they couldn't just, put on their typical clothes and come. They had to change into something that was appropriate for the temple. I just want to briefly say this. How do we come to service? Now, I'm not saying that you and I need to go back to the days that I had as a Baptist pastor, Southern Baptist pastor, or whatever, of a coat and tie. I mean, wearing a coat and tie in Florida, in the panhandle of Florida in July, that's dumb, okay? But at the same time, this pendulum swing that people just come, I've seen people show up for services in their Walmart clothes, their jammies. I saw at one time, years ago, a leader came to service at Sukkot with his pajama bottoms. And was proud. He was proud of the fact that he did that. I find it an abomination when people just come any old way. And I'm not just talking physical dress. How are we dressed spiritually when we walk in? When we come to our services, when we come together, I'm not going back to this is the house of God and all that stuff. No, the house of God will be on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Okay? But how do we come together? When we come together for our services, how do we do that? Do we prepare ourselves dressed spiritually, appropriately, spiritual appropriate dress, physical appropriate dress, or just kind of any old way? All of this, from this point, in this chapter, is a picture, all of it is, but in this chapter, is a picture of the work of Yeshua. And in this picture, what we have is to summarize, is a morning and evening offering. A morning offering that we believe was about 9 a.m., and an afternoon offering that was about 3 p.m. This is, by the way, the time that Yeshua would have been placed upon an execution stake, and it was the time in which he died upon that stake. It was about 9 and about 3. Now, they didn't have an iPhone. They didn't have, it's interesting, in Genesis chapter 1, evening and morning was the first day. Okay? It wasn't broken up into 24 hours. They didn't have a watch to tell that. It would be later that, 24 hours and 60 minutes and 60 seconds and all of these things. But it was a time period of the morning, a time period of the afternoon. But here's the point of it, that every day it was consistent. It doesn't say that you were to do this 6 days a week and then not do it on Shabbat. No, every single day 7 days a week, the morning and evening offering was consistent. That's why, it's one of the reasons why I was introduced to this by Alan Stanfield of blessed memory in Lucerne Valley, California, of the reciting the proclamation of the Shema every day at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. I know that some actually do it 3 times, 9, 12, and 3, but I have settled through the years on 9 and 3. I did that. I did that. I wouldn't say religiously. I did it consistently for a number of years. For some reason, I got away from it. And somewhere in the mid, 2015, something like that, somewhere in that area, I came back to this for some, I don't know, maybe it was just, listening. But for probably over 10 years now, every single day, no matter where I am, which is kind of funny when you're traveling. I'm traveling to Israel and I get to do the Shema twice, as on the way or whatever, coming back. But going to Central Time Zone, I've it's like, oh yeah, okay, now I've got the Shema, and an hour later I got the Shema again. But for over 10 years, I think it is, I have almost, I would say every day, yes, but almost every day at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Not puffing myself up at something. This is just not that difficult to do. Okay, not with the advent of our phones. But I have every single day, twice a day, stopped, or not stopped the car, but stopped mentally and recited the Shema. And it doesn't matter if I'm on a golf course, if I'm at Lowe's, if I'm out in the yard doing something, I'm at a congregation, if I'm out with some people that don't know anything about the Shema, I don't make a big deal of it. I just kind of walk away for a minute or so and recite the Shema, just kind of in a very low tone, okay? But spiritually they could hear it maybe, and it's probably been one of the greatest things that I've done in my own spiritual walk, because it has produced consistency. No matter where you are in life, no matter what that beating, no matter what that crushing that is being brought forth, no matter what that season is, coming back to something of consistency every day, of stopping and proclaiming the Shema, is what I have found. It has brought a consistency to my walk in exile of walking toward the kingdom. And of course I've talked about this so many times in the past, but just wanted to bring it out again. And maybe through that, a few more people. It's amazing to me how many people don't grasp this, that don't make that effort to do this. It's just so simple, folks, but it can be such an amazing time of your day to just stop whatever is going on. We all have stuff. We all have the beatings and the crushings and the snow's flying and the trees are, we all got that stuff. But twice a day, every day, I guess the best way for me to put it is this: life makes sense. When I recite this Shema, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be your name, your glorious kingdom forever and ever." And I add, "Shalom Yerushalayim." It is those 2 times of the day that life makes sense to me. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha וייחונך. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.